Caroline mentioned the airdrops. I don't know if that's continuing at night. Usually in a wildfire situation, they do not, but they are trying to drop as much as they can even in the darkness, which is obviously very tricky flying. But this is such a crisis because unlike a wildfire where that isn't necessarily affecting homes, this is affecting homes and lives and property, and so they're doing everything they possibly can. So they're flying at night, which they don't always do.
And Crystal Springs Reservoir is nearby, and we've had some viewers letting us know they have seen those helicopters loading up there, and as Dan said, this calls for extraordinary measures.
May I add just a bit more of encouraging weather news? I was just in touch with Tim Summers up in our weather office here at ABC 7, who is monitoring every bit of weather information coming in that is relevant to this fire, to this area. We do expect winds to further diminish.
Good.
So not only do we have rising humidity and lowering temperatures, but winds should further diminish. They're out of the west right now to just over 15 miles per hour. So once again, at least the weather conditions are encouraging for the firefighting effort.
And at the worst of it, I shouldn't say the worst of it, when this began, the winds were over 20 miles an hour.
Yes, they were steady at about 22 miles per hour or higher with occasional gusts.
Right.
And over the last couple of hours, we've seen them gradually diminish now down to just over 15 miles per hour out of the west. No apparent gusts at the moment. And of course, as I mentioned, there's been a continuous rise in the humidity and a drop in temperatures.
And you know, one of the things that we've heard witnesses talk about is the intense heat when that initial rupture happened and the explosion. And in a situation like this, now it becomes embers blowing and moving from one house to the next. But initially, it was the enormous heat coming off that fireball that in all likelihood caught homes nearby because of just this simple huge rise in temperature and the heat hitting those buildings.
I can show you a graphic image right now we just put together to just show you, indicate how intense that heat is. We have an infrared satellite image. If they can give me my little weather
there it is.
Here we go, Spencer.
Graphic here. You see that dark spot closing in right there? See that very dark spot? That's the heat from the San Bruno fire.
Really?
It's being picked up by satellite on the infrared image here. So, as you said, the heat is so intense that it's, it helps spread the fire as well, and it helps impede the firefighting effort.
Sure, we heard one fellow say he was in his car and he could feel the heat from the fireball inside his car. He said if the windows were down, he's convinced he would have been burned. He could feel it that intensely.
Just incredible.
And so unexpected.
Well, Spencer, as you said, we're at least moving in the right direction with the weather conditions for this evening. But this is, I mean, the firefighters have an incredible job ahead of them. There appear to be still dozens of homes burning.
It's spread so far. It's got to be
all over. As you can see, as Sky 7 is wider here, I mean, just every twinkling light you see is flames because obviously there's no power in this immediate area.
And once again, I'll add, as tragic as this is, and it's a horrible, horrible tragedy, which I don't mean to diminish, it could be even worse if we had different weather conditions, if we had strong gusty winds, if we had excessively dry conditions and high heat. So
it spread remarkably fast, but you're right, it could have spread much, much faster.
Yeah, so there's nothing fortunate in this, but at least, it's not as bad as it might have been.
Yeah, and now the struggle for firefighters. You heard one of our news photographers, Randy Davis, reporting to us on the telephone that from his vantage point, and he was really close to the heart of the worst of it, the homes inside that fire line gone. The firefighters weren't even really fooling with that. At that point, their concern was stopping it from spreading even farther.
Yeah, and he talked about just block after block after block impacted by this.
Homes burned,
And they burned so quickly. There was virtually no chance to save them.
Well, and as Dan mentioned earlier, I mean, we had a massive explosion in that area, an explosion that many people phoned in and were convinced that a plane had crashed. And the blast, the force of that explosion sent parts of buildings, concrete flying. So we saw that kind of destruction as well as the destruction from the flames that followed.
Well, we expect to hear something more from firefighters shortly. They obviously have been very, very busy. It's difficult to make time to do anything but deal with saving lives and property. But again, one of the curious things, and I hope to get more information we do about this, are these spot fires at almost every home site. You look at the big flame right there in the middle of your picture. it looks like, you know, a gas fire.
Yeah, the flickering flames there.
Yeah, and as you go down the line, at almost every home site, you'll see, you know, material burning, but then you'll see that one solid bit of flame that looks like it's being fueled by the gas line underneath the house. I mean, they're everywhere, as you can see. And, boy, just an incredible scene.
You know, there's obviously been a voluntary evacuation in this area. Well, in the immediate area, people have evacuated. A voluntary evacuation in the area surrounding this fire zone, of course. And
all right, we have with us, sitting with us, Brian Carmody, a news photographer. Brian, thank you for coming in. You took some pictures. You tell us what you saw and walk us through what happened.
I got there about 15 minutes after it happened. The fire
These are your pictures?
That's correct, yeah. The fire was absolutely intense. The gas line is actually burning right behind that home right there that you see burning.
Okay.
And what struck me, besides the obvious heat, was the sound that this thing was making. It was clear to me when I got there that this was something to do with gas and not a plane. There was a lot of debris from an explosion that had happened. There were actually holes in the roofs of some of the houses from rocks that were falling. The firefighters were, I had several of them come up to me and say that they were just frustrated because there was nothing that they could do. They were just,
couldn't get close.
Couldn't get close. Because the houses that are burning are in the zone from the heat from the actual gas itself that's coming up. So they couldn't even get near this house to even try to put it out. That house, when I left, had actually burned completely to the ground. There was a house
this one we're looking at now.
Correct.
Yeah.
The house next door had started to burn, and they were going to try to make a stand there.
Brian, at the time that you arrived here and you saw this home just literally go up, I mean, how many in this area? As your shot pulls out a little wider, we can
There were probably 15 houses that were completely on fire that I could see. Also, through the smoke and the flames down this road, so east of where I was, there appeared to be a couple of large buildings. I don't know if those were apartment buildings or some kind of rec center or something, but something had completely burned down in that area.
Not a house. Bigger than a house.
It looked to be bigger than a house.
Well, and I know there's a Lutheran church in that area. I'm not sure of the proximity of that.
This video was shot at the corner of Claremont and Vermont in San Bruno, and I got there, and we actually were about to leave the area just because it was so hot. I actually have some firefighter gear that I carry with me, and I actually had to use the helmet and the goggles just to shoot these pictures because of how intense the heat was.
Look at these cars all on fire around you.
The cars were burning, the homes were burning, everything was burning. I mean, green grass lawns were catching on fire because of the heat. It was just amazing.
Did you see people getting out of homes? Did you see people escaping?
It appeared to me that anybody that could get out got out right away. There was but this wasn't something where people were going to stick around and say, you know, we're going to, you know.
This was an evacuate immediately
exactly.
emergency.
This was something where you don't need the authorities to tell you to leave. People were literally running for their lives from this thing. I did observe the firefighters rescue a dog out of one of the houses. That was really nice to see. At one point, the firefighters actually commandeered my vehicle and took a person out that had been very badly burned in my car because they didn't have any other way to get this victim out of there. Wow. And they said, "Can we have your car?" And I said, "Of course." And I gave them my keys to my car, and they transported somebody out away. And I had to find my vehicle later to retrieve it. Somebody, the firefighters had left it up at a command post that was about 5 blocks away. So we got...
You know, because when we see images like this, you think about the people involved, and you hope that people had the chance to get out.
Apparently there was a huge explosion at the beginning of this. That's what we were told by several witnesses, and the fire spread so quickly. You know, it was, I've never seen, I've been doing this 16 years, and I've never seen anything like this.
All of us, none of us have really either in so many respects. Brian, do you know, the gas main in question is right behind this house. Are there any houses closer? Was any house obliterated by a blast?
It was one of those things where I would have loved to get closer, but I couldn't. Yeah. I actually shot, there were some pictures that I shot from a backyard of 2 houses down from where this thing is, shooting back down. It looked to me like this was kind of in a ravine area, but it was so hard with the smoke and everything to see exactly what was going on. You know,
And roughly, how long since the explosion were these pictures taken?
This stuff you're looking at now is about half an hour into it. You see the firemen. You know, the firemen did a great job. What they did in the beginning is what they're trained to do, which is to locate and rescue,